Hey everyone, this is Sho. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Today we have another TAC review where we look at a game's tactics, AI, and cheese to break it down and see how it fares for newcomers and veterans to the genre. Before we start, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Every little bit helps me grow the channel, and as always, thank you for sending your love this way. Now, in celebration of Shin Megami Tensei V's release, I wanted to shine the light on the Megaten title that led to the renaissance of the series, and its first time really breaking through in the West. That is, of course, Shin Megami Tensei III Nocturne. Originally released in 2003 in Japan, 2004 in North America, SMTIII, more colloquially known as just Nocturne, was the third installment in the core Megaten series. Despite missing sales targets, it was considered a great success in the eyes of Atlas, specifically in the Western market. This game essentially put the SMT series on the map and allowed for many of its spin-offs to make their way westward, such as Digital Devil Saga, Devil Summoner, and a little series you may be familiar with called Persona. Given its influence, a HD remaster was released in 2021 and made available on Windows, Switch, and PS4. The story of Megaten games generally involves the conflict between Lucifer and God. Yes, that God. And that takes place over all time and space. In each iteration of the series, you're usually placed in Tokyo, Japan, as it undergoes some form of cataclysmic event, thus making it a wasteland full of demons. In practice, the plot in SMT games isn't too distinct or clear, normally keeping to a handful of characters as they explore what humanity is while trying to survive this ruined world. The plot of Nocturne follows this typical flow, putting us in the role of the main character, known as the Demi-Fiend. After visiting his teacher in the hospital, he, along with his friends, are spirited away to a ruined world where he searches for his friends, gains power, and ultimately decides the future of this realm. I personally find this to be enjoyable. However, don't expect Final Fantasy VII or Dragon Quest XI levels of plot development. Nocturne's plot, in essentially all SMT plots for that matter, are nuanced, and tend to be culturally rooted in Japan, leading to a more self-reflective experience that focuses on the player's own way of digesting this new world overrun with demons. In essence, your feelings and choices will lead you on a path that results in one of many possible endings. One major point I'll elaborate on more in the tactics section is the demon recruitment system. Nocturne can be considered a sort of adult Pokemon game. As you proceed through the story, you'll come across demons that must be defeated in battle. However, many of these demons have sentience and personality. Early on, you're taught that you can speak with demons and recruit them to your cause. This is a core aspect of gameplay. You'll need to recruit demons through conversation and fuse them together to create stronger demons with better skills. There are a myriad of demons available, with around 180 or so, that are based on real-world mythologies and legends. Each demon is fairly unique in its design, and finding and fusing new demons is always something to look forward to. When discussing the visuals, this is where much of the criticisms of the HD remaster come into light. The game's visuals have improved in comparison to the original PS2 release, especially since I don't need to play it on a CRT television. However, when looking at other remasters done, it just doesn't seem crisp enough. Early on in release, there apparently were issues with frame rate drops and other graphical points. I dodged these personally as I picked it up after many patches had been dropped. In all, playing it now, it runs well but just graphically seems lacking. From my understanding, the PS4 version has similar issues as well. Additionally, the game retains many of its original cutscenes, so you'll have the pleasure of watching them in their original 4:3 aspect ratio, with a border around it to compensate for the widescreen. I personally find this charming in a retro sort of way. Sound-wise, the game sounds great, and audio really sets the mood as you explore the ruins of Tokyo by your lonesome. Battle tracks match the tone, and each area has a unique track that just helps set the atmosphere really nicely. Performance-wise, again, I didn't experience too many issues. There were a few times when some of the particle effects killed the frame rate during battles. Nothing too much that would freeze or crash the software, but definitely noticeable during some battles. Also, despite the quality of life enhancements, the game is well, at first, a PS2 game. Therefore, controls may feel a bit clunky on the maps and in the zones, with animations being quite old school. The game design does indeed show its age. Finally, just a note with versions. The original release in the West had Dante from the Devil May Cry series. This, of course, birthed the meme we all love to this day. However, the HD remaster is based more on the original release in Japan, so no Dante. Dante was added with many other enhancements in the Maniacs release in Japan. The HD remaster basically adds much of the Maniacs content, such as the Labyrinth of Amala. However, it doesn't include Dante, who is instead replaced by Kuzunoha from the Devil Summoner series. So if you're really into having Dante on your team later on, you can actually purchase the Maniacs DLC that was made available. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck with Kuzunoha, which is not really all that bad. So, Nocturne's tactical aspects are broken down into a few mechanics that aren't clearly categorized in a pristine way. So we'll begin with the battle system and work our way out towards more general systems that the game has to offer. Nocturne plays as a typical turn-based RPG with one huge distinction. This game was the debut of the press turn battle system. Essentially, at the start of your turn, you're given one action icon for each party member available on the field. This usually means you have about 4 icons per turn. The way the press turn system works is that one action removes one icon. However, if you are able to exploit a weakness or land a critical hit, then the icon does not get consumed and you are free to continue your turn. This is indicated by the icon flashing. It is possible then to have all 4 icons flashing if you land 4 criticals or hit 4 different enemies with their weakness. This allows for a maximum of 8 actions during a single turn. You can also choose to pass on your turn, which allows the icon to be reused. However, a sequential pass will consume the action point. Now, this seems all well and good, but everything here also applies to the enemy. Each critical or weakness hit on your party allows for your enemy to get the same bonus. Additionally, should you hit a void, or the enemy dodges, you'll actually lose 2 of your icons, and Kakatsuchi help you that if you get your attack drained or reflected, then you lose all of your icons in one shot. Now again, if the enemy hits you and you dodge, drain, or whatnot, you'll reap these same benefits. However, as we'll talk about in the AI section, don't get too giddy with this being common. In all, the press turn battle system is something used in various iterations of the Megaten franchise. For those who played Persona, you are somewhat familiar with this system already. Just note that the mainline series is much more punishing with this, which can make newcomers to the genre a bit uneasy when handling this mechanic. With that said, I'm sure many veterans would agree, the system itself is fairly easy to pick up. It just requires a bit more conscious thought and a certain level of care to ensure you don't mispress the button. Since the press turn system is the crux of the battle system, it's important to give a bit of a note towards how skills work in Nocturne, which is more or less how they work in all Megaten games. Skills are broken into a few categories, but in essence you have physical attacks, magic attacks, stat changes, heals, and passives. Physical attacks consume health points to use and are mostly based on the user's strength stat. Magic attacks, stat changes, and heals all use magic points and mostly rely on the magic stat to scale for damage. Passives are skills that work in the background and always provide effects. These can be extremely helpful, such as draining or voiding certain elements, but some are less than stellar. For example, most of the passive skills that are used for demon conversations are generally pointless and don't have much of a use. Skills are learned via leveling up, and each demon has its own skill pool that they learn from. The exception to this is the Demi-Fiend himself, as he learns skills from the Magatama system. Magatama are basically little bugs that the Demi-Fiend ingests that grant him stat bonuses and new skills upon level. It's extremely important to note, all demons, Demi-Fiend included, can only learn a max of 8 skills. For demons, you can use the fusion system to loop around and get old skills you want again. But if you replace a skill on the Demi-Fiend, there is no way to get it back. So it's helpful to keep this in consideration as you go through your Magatama. You may accidentally miss a good skill that can help you on your run. When considering skills then, you'll want a mix of different types depending on your build. Magic types like Pixie are better with magic skills, so mixing buffs, heals, and magic attacks are generally recommended. It's also a good idea to have buffs and debuffs and heals on some of your more physical hitters as well to balance the overall needs of your party. For the Demi-Fiend himself, a more physical-oriented build is considered best, as many of the highest damage skills in the late game are physical-based, and many of the late game demons are more susceptible to these attacks. This brings me to the demons themselves. Demons are broken down into families which impact how they fuse with other demons. Throughout the game, you'll be fighting, speaking, and recruiting demons almost all the time. Essentially, recruitment happens by selecting the talk option during battle. The member who decides to talk will engage the enemy directly and a discussion will go down. In general, most demons just demand things like money, items, health points, the usual. And if they're satisfied with what you provide them, they will either give you an item back, or they will join your party. Sometimes then, demons will also ask you questions, but if I'm going to be brutally honest, the answers don't really seem to matter much. In fact, the recruitment of demons tends to be fairly random when it comes to these dialogue choices. Now, there are notable exceptions. Some demons that have a real-world mythology connection, for example, Odin and Loki, may provide additional dialogue or special conversations, which can result in you getting a special item or have an easier chance recruiting them into your party. Aside from this, the main way of procuring demons is to use the Cathedral of Shadows to perform fusions. Fusions basically have you select two demons, and these are then merged into a single new demon. Through this system, skills are inherited from the parents down to the offspring. Depending on how many skills the parents collectively unlocked, the amount of inheritable skills increases or decreases. Now, the deeper mechanics of fusion are fairly complex as the result of the aforementioned demonic family system. However, there are loads of charts and guides on the internet that show what demons fuse into what other demons. Speaking of charts and data, at the Cathedral of Shadows you are given access to the Demonic Compendium, which records all demons you have obtained. This is extremely helpful in doubling back to get new fusions, but beware, there is a steep cost of money involved when using the service. Finally, it would be remiss of me to forget about Kagutsuchi. Kagutsuchi is the main plot device of the story. However, it's actually an overarching mechanic for the whole game. Basically, Kagutsuchi is the moon of sorts, and like our actual moon, waxes and wanes in phases. This has an impact on various systems in-game. For combat, Kagutsuchi phases impact the number of encounters, aggressiveness of the AI, and so on. In regards to fusions, some higher level demons can only be fused during particular phases. So, keeping your eye on the Kagutsuchi phase is extremely important, as some bosses gain tremendously from it. Now, Nocturne has multiple difficulty levels, and I went in on normal difficulty as I do. Difficulty impacts various factors such as damage dealt, damage received, XP gains, and so on. On normal, everything is balanced at plus or minus 0, so I'll make my assessment using this mode. The SMT series is fairly recognized as one of, if not the hardest JRPG series out there. Nocturne is no exception to that. In fact, I would say many people believe that Nocturne is the hardest out there. However, the trick with Nocturne, as with other games, such as Dark Souls, is simple. Don't rush. At no point does Nocturne ever throw you in an impossible situation. Sometimes the battles may seem unfair, however the game always ensures that you have some form of out. The catch is, the game doesn't signpost it as many JRPGs do. Take for instance Matador, the first of the superpowered Fiend class demons and considered one of the most challenging bosses in gaming. At the start of the battle, Matador uses Red Capote, a buff skill that gives boosts to accuracy and evasion. This is followed up with a series of hard-hitting wind skills that can wreck your team in a single turn. What to do then? Well, in a shop in the town just before the fight, a Magatama can be bought that avoids wind. Just outside the battle arena, there are demons that when fused together can create a Uzume, which absorbs wind attacks. Also, Nue are found there as well, which have a wind resistance. By gathering and leveling these demons, you can make a party that essentially bricks half of Matador's attacks. Another approach can be pitched in the following way. When was the last time you needed to cast Protect and Shell in a Final Fantasy game that was not Final Fantasy XI or XIV? Typically, buffs, and more specifically debuffs, are overlooked and underused spells in many JRPGs. Nocturne knows this and punishes you extremely hard for forgetting about it. Many bosses essentially require these moves to ensure you have a chance of victory. In summary, these examples are the best way I can paint the AI and difficulty with Nocturne. The game itself really isn't hard. It just continuously presents a challenge that the player must overcome by exploring the aforementioned systems. By taking a deep dive and experimenting with demon fusions, Magatama skills, and party combinations, most changes can be easily thwarted. So, for newcomers and veterans, just take your time. So once again, we can consider the Merciless mode or Easy mode that doubles XP and money gains the easy out. This is great for filling out your compendium if you're looking to do that, but definitely defeats the purpose of this section. Also, given the nature of Nocturne, one can still get smacked around if not careful. Lucky for us, there's quite a few things we can do that will ultimately trivialize this game. Here's one small thing to remember. Dai Sojo makes everything Daijobu. Yes, the second of the fiends you come across is arguably the best demon in the whole game. There are loads of builds available online, with one of my personal favorites using a special Nue that can be bought from the Labyrinth of Amala. But Daisojo has two extremely game-breaking skills: prayer and meditation. Prayer, while available to other demons, is a 100% full restore, usable only in battle. Meditation is Daisojo's unique skill, and it is a HP MP lifesteal that scales with his magic stat. In other words, this makes Daisojo a perpetual healing generator that actually deals great damage. Best part, you can get him once you're level 37 upon defeating him, which is around a quarter of the way into the game, and his battle can be incredibly thwarted just by using the Fog Breath skill. Another game-breaking skill is Pierce. Pierce bypasses all resistances, basically making your attacks unblockable. Now, this is more of an endgame skill given to the Demi-Fiend after the completion of the Labyrinth of Amala, but it is possible for demons to get this skill, as in the last Kalpa of the Labyrinth, you can buy a Gremlika with Pierce, register it in the Demonic Compendium, and use that as a fusion base. This can trivialize the true ending boss and make your subsequent playthroughs a breeze. On that note, regardless of the path you choose, you should do most of the Labyrinth of Amala. The items, XP, and rewards in it are definitely worth the time. Do know, however, that full completion of the Labyrinth will lock you into a specific ending, so if you're looking to do other endings, be sure not to kill the last boss. As a longtime fan of Megaten, I was very happy to have the chance to enjoy this classic on a modern console with some nice quality of life changes. With that said, I am a bit depressed that Atlas didn't do much more of this graphically and performance-wise. Ultimately, I would recommend this to both newcomers and veterans looking for a challenging RPG experience with some of the best battle mechanics in the genre. Alright, well, thank you for making it to the end of the video. As always, a big thank you to my new subscribers and old ones coming back. Slowly and steadily, we're getting bigger and bigger, and that support really keeps me looking forward to dropping new videos. And if you're new and you enjoyed the content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel to send your love. Also, leave me some comments on your thoughts of the game, and let me know your experiences with the Megaten series, and perhaps you can let me know if you're getting SMTV I. I know I will. So thanks for watching, and remember, if the going gets tough, let's switch strats. Cheers!